Welcome back to Story Hustler, Murder Mayhem PTSD. I'm Dylan.
And I'm Mike.
Like and subscribe. It's been a minute since our last episode. We have a review of a recent documentary that dropped that you were in.
The Doomsday Prophet, Truth and Lies.
It was
ABC Hulu production.
Yeah, it's now on Hulu, so you can watch it there. It was very well done. You were featured prominently, so nice job giving them good sound bites.
Well, thank you very much. The ABC crew came and spent a whole day with us. You were helpful in getting all that video together, which I
Gotta help
appreciate.
them with the tech.
Yeah, the tech stuff. But so what your impressions?
I thought it was very well done. It did a nice job of furthering the story, which we always talk about, and also talking about the history, which you need to know because it just is very complicated.
And I sort of maintain you can't tell the story with any kind of authority if you don't know the history.
Well, as we've seen A&E do with their thing, they kind of don't really tell the history and they act like it's brand new breaking news, but that's a...
Well, and this opens up. We want to talk about a number of documentaries because it's just an interesting time in this story. There are periods of time where just nobody seemed to be paying attention. There's always things going on inside the FLDS community to further that one goal of theirs, the plural marriages, which inevitably leads to the underage marriages.
Yeah, they have a very active group currently.
Yeah, and that's I think what ABC when they came to us, they said, my question is, what are you guys doing with this story? A number of people have done it. I put some books up here just because, for those who think that secrets are being revealed in this story,
these document them, and they're not recent published books.
Yeah, there's a slew of good literature, very well written books talking about, and these are just some I just pulled off the shelf. There's a dozen more. But there is a wealth of information, there's a wealth of literature, there's a wealth of knowledge and reportage on this subject. So at this point, if people feel like there are revealing secrets, they clearly don't understand the story very well.
They have not done their research.
Yeah, well, and just in the last, it really started,
2022 is when Keep Sweet dropped.
Keep Sweet dropped.
Which was like the biggest thing in a minute.
Yeah,
really since Warren went away.
Yeah, on Netflix, and they did that terrific multi-part series called Keep Sweet, and they, I think, laid it out. You want the background. Go watch Keep Sweet, and then tune in to this ABC Hulu. It's now streaming on Hulu.
Keep Sweet was a nice period. This is what's been happening. It didn't really go into what's currently happening because it hadn't happened at that point.
It was so interesting that Keep Sweet dropped the same week that a revelation that we have spoken about many times was dropped by Warren from his prison cell
in Texas. Yeah,
and that sort of opened up their new, I think, business model.
Yeah, because then it basically said, we're going to start up the marriages. We've talked about this a lot in our recent or past episodes. So start up the marriages, which inevitably means young women, young girls, and they started going missing. Kids started going missing right after that revelation. And you were contacted by Ruth Stubbs, who has just been a pivotal player in this whole entire story.
So glad she got a little, we gave her a shout out in the ABC thing.
Yeah.
Because she really is one of the significant figures.
Yeah. She has been through it all, through all the history with such interesting connections.
She gives us a call and gives us a hand up.
Call, and her friend's daughter has gone missing. And
so now it's the new generation of children.
Yeah.
These young,
not a new story.
Ruth's generation went through it. Now this new generation, and it was interesting. I think one of the things that they showed inside that ABC documentary, and forgive me because I'm going to ramble a lot, because watching that is such a sort of an emotional trip down memory lane for all of us who are, I think, involved in this. And they had some great sound bites. Our dear friend Alyssa Wall, who I love. Every time I see Alyssa on camera, I'm just sort of inspired as she talked about that moment sitting in court and shooting war, staring war.
Yeah, making him look away first. It was just such a boss-ass move.
Was that a great
I don't know if I can cuss, but
it's our show.
God, it was.
It's our show, and it was a boss-ass move.
Yeah, and then just her always riding a motorcycle. Oh,
yeah, she's terrific.
She's awesome.
Some great interviews in that. But
very good. And what was interesting is they we're talking about the ABC. I feel like we've kind of rambled too.
We're all over.
But
We're talking about a number of different
Mhm.
documentaries.
But
Keep
this
Sweet, but the ABC thing is just dropped
just
last
dropped
week.
on Thursday last week,
Yeah.
and it got some really interesting interviews inside the community too.
That's
Which, if you know about the community, they're so isolated from the outside world and taught to hate really the outside world, and so it's kind of interesting that the media got interviews with them.
Yeah, the way they
were open.
Credit to the ABC crew that went up there, but you know, I always look for people who do these stories in these days. What show me something I haven't seen before?
Mhm.
Take me somewhere we haven't. And they going inside the dressmaking facility where the FLDS women were making their very traditional garb. Fascinating.
Mhm.
You know, fascinating, and to get some of the young mothers talking about their commitment still to Warren and to the faith.
Yeah, it was interesting, and it was kind of interesting because there is a sense of like you do feel bad because they are so isolated, but now in technology era you've got to think that there's so much more access to phones. And then when they went over the interesting fact in his trial, when the rape tape was going to be showed to the court, and his followers just got up and left, like they didn't want to hear it. It's not like they don't have access to hearing the stuff, like they chose to get up and leave. So it's like it's kind of frustrating that you can't really like argue the facts. Like facts are up for debate nowadays.
We see that in politics. You know, people can just
don't
want to know the truth. But I think, and you noted this when we were saying what are the points that we found interesting, and you said that the massive FLDS down in that Texas courtroom in San Angelo just got up and left the courtroom
when it was announced that
this was going to play the rape tape, which we've talked about, and it was just that it still just sort of is like a knife in the gut every time. It's
sickening.
So, but his whole crew got up and didn't want to hear it, and we talk about it. You feel sympathy, and you see, and the women who got out in the dock, they talked about the difficulty of getting out, and I've seen it with my own eyes. It's excruciating. It's not easy. But it also, I don't know if I'm just becoming a little more hardened to the whole thing. Probably I am. Because at this point, every one of the polygamous people have their own cell phones, and the information's out there that this guy is such a wicked bastard. And you get those women with the sincerity in their eyes, the FL, and saying he is our prophet and we love him.
And they're going to put their daughters through the same thing.
That's it.
They're just okay with it.
And I want to be sympathetic, but sometimes you just want to say, what's the matter, and how long does this sort of reality? It's frustrating. We're seeing it on the national level, where you can just deny facts and
it doesn't serve your purpose.
And
didn't happen,
and rewrite history fake news, and I think it's very disturbing. But I also think that for our nation, this is sort of a microcosmic sort of petri dish of so many interesting, facets of humanity and life in a cult and life
for so long just having your being like, oh, well, we don't want to touch it, we don't want to deal with it, so it just lets these homegrown weirdos go.
Yeah.
Well, like the longer you wait to take action, the more it can spiral out of control, as we see nowadays.
Yeah, there's no question. And Warren showed that. I mean, when we started, the handful of the brave women started raising hell, and we started doing some stories, we always thought, we can let's produce one young girl, and they're going to see the light, and they'll go up there and apply some heat. And they didn't. And it took so many stories, and you just had to feel like we had to beat the police and the politicians into doing the right thing.
Into giving a shit.
And ABC, when they spoke to us and they were here with us, I said, what is really your primary goal? And they said, we really want to do a deep dive history into this. And I think as deep as you can do in a 2-hour segment, they did that. There are a million facets to this story. The federal lawsuit that basically took control of the town and finally dismantled the police department. It's a chapter that never gets mentioned. The battle to decertify the police force.
But like you said, in a 2-hour special, you can't get into the nitty-gritty like that.
There's things I want to see.
But they did connect a lot of dots. If you're just dropping in, which it's hard to think that people don't know about this, but if you're just dropping in,
Yeah, if you're
you
still
should
waiting
watch
for
it.
secrets to be revealed, yeah,
Or a knight in shining armor and a big cowboy hat.
yeah, but that, and we're alluding to a product that's now on A&E, and I just
They approached you about that too.
they wanted me to be in that, and I'm glad that I didn't. And they have some wonderful interviews with some really insightful people who convey some really important information in that
100%.
A&E doc. But this has been my beef about the storytelling, and this does everything that I sort of object to. First of all, acting as if this very well uh, established history is some sort of secret being revealed.
Yeah, breaking news.
And then go
They have
ripping
headlines from 2006 is like
ripping
the
headlines,
average.
and then, but my biggest objection is sort of propping up some John Wayne figure in a cowboy hat, acting as if they're coming in to the little western town. It's just the most lazy, cliched narrative that's inaccurate. But the producers say, well, let's impose that narrative on it, and we can then tell our little story. So you get your John Wayne figure who's going to go in right into the town and take out the bad guys. And I've been around covering this story for 40 years, and that's never been the way it's worked.
The women.
Well, and I hope we made that point. That was the point.
Always been the women.
Yeah, and that really, if you want to know the story, and this is the beauty of the story, you don't need John Wayne because the real power and beauty of this story has always been for overwhelmingly women.
Mm-hmm.
A handful of brave people, overwhelmingly women, who have been just completely screwed over by this lifestyle, by this theology, who have gotten up and said, hell no, we're going to save our kids, and we ain't going to let you do to our little brothers and sisters what you did to us. And those are the heroes. And so some guy in a cowboy hat driving around an SUV, you know what? Sort of phony baloney.
Yeah.
And the real story is more powerful than that.
100%. Yeah. It belittles the story at the end of the day.
In many ways, it imposes this thing is all about misogyny.
Yeah.
And that storytelling imposes another layer of misogyny on this story that you got to have this guy, this dopey guy, stumble in and save the day.
Yeah, but aside from all of that, they did get really important interviews with women that were incredibly brave for talking. Yeah,
Faith is a terrific interview.
She was awesome, and they've gotten just women that got out of different groups too, which we wanted to allude to.
The Kingstons.
The Kingstons, which is like another LeBaron story that we mentioned from Daughters of the Cult. That was another doc that dropped. We're getting all over the place, but basically,
a wealth of information. It just again points up the fact you wanted some history of this. Watch Keep Sweet. Then watch this ABC thing that they did called Vanished.
Yeah, the missing children. It was about the missing children that happened after Warren's current revelation.
Two kudos to ABC because they've been on top of this real well with this very serious sort of look at the history and some of the very significant criminal cases.
Mm-hmm.
They did that in Doomsday Prophet. But also they did the thing Vanished, talking about the children that have gone missing in the immediate aftermath of Warren's revelation.
Yes, which is kind of also interesting because those were two of the main parts of his current revelation was the marriages, and then they mentioned this 5-year doomsday, basically.
Yeah.
Which is kind of interesting that ABC did like a half on the first half of the revelation and then another thing on the second half, which is...
And it's ominous. I mean, they definitely, the headline of this, they sort of took, the headline of Doomsday Prophet from this revelation that came out in the summer of
June 2022.
And where Warren said, gather up the children, and then everybody's going to be translated, lifted up. And
the earth is going to be cleansed.
That means going to heaven.
Wicked folk.
So, there are a lot of us and a lot of people who try to read the tea leaves and the insanity bouncing around Warren's mind and trying to figure out what does this mean. Is it a doomsday proclamation from a... We've talked about this before. My one caveat to that, and it probably is exactly what Warren intends it to be, but Warren has been pulling out the Doomsday card from his sleeve every time he needs to shake up the faithful. He said it was going to be the end of the world in 2002. It was going to in 2000. The millennium. Then it was going to be Doomsday when Salt Lake City got the Olympics. That was going to wipe everybody out. Warren has been bringing out Doomsday proclamations because it scares the hell out of his faithful, makes them start tithing more and be ever more faithful. So
it's his +4 Uno card.
exactly. It's just the kind of thing where this guy knows he. So is he playing that card again? Absolutely. Does this time mean it's more serious? He's now been stewing in his own bullshit down in that Texas prison cell for nearly 20 years. So is he now crazy enough to say drink the Kool-Aid? Let's hope not. But clearly ABC thought it was meritorious to note, this Doomsday Proclamation, and they had our friend Roger Houle, the attorney, talking about what that could mean, and it is so
there has
sobering.
been, criminal activity like the Waco thing and just other things that
Waco, Jim Jones,
Jim
all of
Jones.
those kind. There's certainly a history in this country. Let's hope it doesn't come to that.
And speaking of history, we also wanted to note, again, we've mentioned this before, but the common theme of all these culty religion things that we've been talking about recently is this Mormon theology.
Yeah, and they had Sisters of the Cult talking about Daughters of the Cult. Terrific, our friends Celia and Anna LeBaron and Hiram. They've been on this show, but that's a great doc. Watch that if you'd like. But the one thing all of them have in common, and they all stem from basically the Mormon theology that has, and I've covered so many of these guys. And my question is, I think all religions produce freaks and fanatics and people who take it way too far. But I could say that, the Mormon ideology has certainly been the springboard for a whole slew of these kind of crackpots who end up going into the plural marriages, the underage raping of children, oftentimes violence, often criminality. And the one common, and I know the LDS church hates talk like this, but
Joseph Smith popped up out of the blue kind of the exact same way as all these other guys seem to. He said, I'm anointed, I saw these gold plates, and follow me, and then took all their wives.
And then, and this is historically what has gotten these guys, as I said in the doc, this is what has gotten these guys in trouble from the days of Joseph Smith.
Yeah, they ran him out of town because he took everyone's wives. It's like, who is this man?
But so that, and again, I don't know if the networks want to start to get into that sort of
no, but we can on our small little political.
But it is interesting that Warren Jeffs, Ervil LeBaron, Rulon Jeffs, Orson William Black, Tom Green, Arvin Shreve. I'm just going through all the prophets who have all been busted, all pervy, all taking advantage and raping children. All of these guys, what do they have in common? It's sort of that Mormon bedrock of theology that they used as their springboard to become crazy.
Yeah.
And I think that's fascinating.
Yeah.
And we can say that given we're both all from Mormon roots here, so we have some knowledge.
We got polygamous ancestors.
We got polygamous ancestors.
No, we shouldn't gloat about them.
Whatever. Whatever. It is what it is. I think you're.
Although I am proud to be any sort of related to the women that have taken this man down, if I have any relation.
Yeah, and that's all of these are really extraordinary people. And I want to do just a library session with one of these things, just talk about the books that I'd recommend for this. And again, I just pulled those off the shelf. I got more in the other room.
So many.
And so if anybody's pitching to you that they're exposing these secrets for the first time, buy a ticket somewhere else, because there is some really good journalism that has been done in the last couple of years. And we just, again, Keep Sweet on Netflix, Vanished on ABC, now Doomsday Prophet on ABC. I still think that one of the other cables has a project still in the works. And so, there's a wealth of information.
Yeah, and you did some okay work too.
Yeah, well, we did. The only thing I can say is I've been around longer than damn near anybody else in this story. Me and Warren, I guess.
Just say you're old.
Yeah, well, that's what it is. But, and I look at myself on television these days, and they have clips when I was a kid, and it's like, whoa, what happened to me? But,
you were flying high.
It's been a great adventure. People have reached out, as they do after something like this drops, and they've all been very positive. But I feel fortunate to have. The only credit I would take is that I just knew a good story when I saw it. and never let go.
Mhm.
And people came and went, and got
You held the
involved.
microphone.
Yeah, for the Penny Petersons and the Flora Jessups
And
and
the
the
Ruth
Ruth
Stubbs.
Stubbs and Fawn Broadbent and Fawn Holm and the women that,
Dan and Maxine Jessup.
Dan and Maxine
Elizabeth
Jessup,
Roundy.
Elizabeth Roundy, and our friend Ruth Stubbs, who they mentioned, has just sent me a very interesting manuscript. She's trying to write down some of the moments of her life, and it's incredible. I'm hoping she gets that published at some point or
Yep.
another. There's a lot of story. There's a lot of this story, and it didn't just start with one of these documentaries, and it didn't certainly end. Uh, this story goes on
Mhm.
beyond even where ABC took it most recently, and wherever these A&E is going with it. There is this phenomenon of missing children, many of them still missing after Warren put out his revelation. And the challenge to law enforcement, this is the future of the story, because they've lost control of Short Creek, Hilldale, and Colorado City, because they lost their big compound in Texas. The new business model of the FLDS is to scatter all over, and they've got
Safe houses.
guy called me that is in some sort of remote land in southern Utah, and says they may be building a little tract of homes. They've scattered to the wind because they've found that a centralized location gets them in trouble, because all their criminality is in one spot, as it was in Texas. So they're abandoned that.
Across the states,
and
crossing borders.
Which if they're going to follow Warren's revelation, gather up the children, it means you're going to have it means inherently trafficking children from, because they're all over now, and you want to get girls together so that Warren or his now young anointed son Helaman can start handing out, because that's what they got to do to maintain the power structure. You got to feed the beast, which is all the men that are toadies to you. You feed them with girls.
Mm-hmm.
And so
it's disgusting, and it's never ending, and you got to put heat on them to stop them, or at least slow them down.
That's the only thing. And I think that their behavior, even within the last couple of years since you and I've been more involved in this, has sort of altered. Because immediately after the revelation, a whole bunch of kids went missing. I haven't heard any more reports after the news conference and that ABC thing dropped.
Mm-hmm.
These guys watch television too, and they know where the light and the heat are coming from.
Mm-hmm.
And those are the only two weapons I've had, but they change their behavior and they slow the stuff down.
Yep.
I think.
I would agree based on your coverage. But anyway, we've ranted.
Yeah, yes, okay.
Gone all over the place.
What do you think? So give your
bottom line
critique of this.
I thought it was very well done, and it's worth the watch. The ABC doc. We're gotta make sure we specify what we're talking about. But the Doomsday Prophet, Truth and Lies, it's now on Hulu, but it's an ABC original, and it's well worth the watch.
About 2 hours. They cram a lot of history, and they wanted to show some history. They did. So
it's sickening. But this whole story is sickening.
Yeah. Our daughter-in-law says she watched it last night and had nightmares.
My sister-in-law.
Your sister-in-law, my daughter-in-law.
Yeah.
So we appreciate family and friends supporting and comments that we've gotten from that. And my feeling is, just given my role in this, anybody who wants to tell a sincere, accurate rendering of this, I always want to help.
Yeah.
But when people want to start, manufacturing myths and,
and acting like things that happened 20 years ago are breaking news.
Yeah.
Or things that have been solved.
Yeah. Ripping headlines from stir cases.
But anyway, we've already talked about that.
Yeah. Anyhow, well, tune into Doomsday Prophet, Truth and Lies. I give it a very big thumbs up, and I think the producers did a great job.
And you'll see this face a lot more.
Oh, I don't know if that's it. I don't
know if that was a selling point. But on that note, we'll close it.
Yeah.
So this is Story Hustler. Like and subscribe if you haven't already, and share with your friends.
Murder, mayhem, PTSD. We got it all day long, 24/7.
But
and I'm hoping we can drop some of the interviews. The people who we've interviewed that were in this doc in their early. We've got some great interviews with Ruth Stubbs
more
that we want to share. Well, that's really the only thing I got to offer anymore. It's all this ancient history.
We're here now.
So.
And it's not going away. Anyway.
Yeah, that's true.
Good night, everyone.
Good night, everybody. Thank you.